If you have topics you would like to have us discuss on the Aging Well podcast, please click on the links in the episode description to send us a text or record your message or comments. We'd love to hear from you and how we can help you age well. If you benefit from the Aging Well podcast and would like to support the content financially, please click on the Support the Show link or support our affiliates and advertisers. Welcome to the Aging Well podcast. I'm Jeff Armstrong here with Corbin Bruton. In this and the episodes that follow, we will share candid discussions on aging and hear from the experts. We are here to inform and encourage as we experience, aging. In today's episode, Corbin and I discuss hybrid living and what this means for aging well. It is a model for slowing our pace down and focusing on optimizing our performance spiritually, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and socially, instead of rushing through life. It reminds us to settle ourselves and focus on performance. We'll talk about regenerative braking as a productive pause. And we talk about the Lou Holtz quote, "It's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it."
Dr. Armstrong, I saw that you got a brand new car today. That was awesome. Tell me, what kind of car is that?
It's a Ford Maverick hybrid electric vehicle.
Yeah.
I love that car. It is just the perfect vehicle for me. We've had it for about 5 weeks now. So.
What's with gas prices being so high, what miles per gallon do you get on there?
I'm actually getting better than the EPA. I'm getting right now I'm at 3,300 miles so far driving, and I'm averaging about 41.1 miles per gallon.
So what about your commute? I mean, that's a long commute that you have daily. How's that?
Yeah, so I drive about 110 miles a day. I have to drop my son off to high school and then drive down to the university. So round trip, I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of about 110 miles a day. So that
Jeez.
41 miles per gallon is combined. That's some highway driving. Most of it, in fact, is highway. I drive a little bit more now on a back road just to get a little bit better gas mileage, but it's, on the highway.
What do you like the most about the hybrid?
I like the fact that it's a hybrid. I mean, that's why we kind of jumped on getting the vehicle. Originally, I was looking for the Bronco. We're doing shameless plugs for Ford today.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's okay. Maybe they'll, I don't know, give me a discount on the next car or something. But I was really looking at the Bronco Sport. I really liked the design of that and was waiting for that. But I had to have a hybrid because I have such a long commute. I need something that's going to get better mileage. I'm actually getting better mileage in this vehicle than I get in my Nissan that we'll be passing off to my son once he gets his driver's license. But I like the fact that it's an electric hybrid, or hybrid electric, I guess I would call it. And I like its EV coach. It's got a little feature in there where you can set up on your screen to monitor whether you are in electric mode, whether you're recharging, or whether you are kind of in the hybrid where you're using both gas and electric, or just gas in many cases. And so it tells me when I'm charging the vehicle and when I'm in electric mode. And it's a really nice little visual to optimize my mileage.
Cool. Well, now that you've just given an amazing plug for Ford, is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Well, I love that vehicle because it slows me down. And I had the Nissan for, I think it was about 8 years. And I've found that over that period of time, going from a hybrid, because I had another plug for a Ford Escape prior to that, and it did really well. Gas mileage, not quite as good as the Maverick is doing, but I found that my driving shifted. And my attitude shifted a lot more. It was much more, I wanted to get to where I'm going as quick as possible. That was my primary focus. And so if somebody was in the passing lane going too slow, my irritation level would elevate, and I'd get much more frustrated with drivers as I was driving to and from work. And with this vehicle, it really slows me down. When I'm going to work, it's not necessarily about my speed now. I'm more focused on getting the good gas mileage. And so I do push the speed limit a little bit. I'm not one of those hypermilers that is going to go a little bit slower than the speed limit so that I'm in electric mode in the fast lane as long as possible. I I do go generally about 70, 72 on the highway. Don't tell the state police. But generally, they're not going to pull you over. I've passed state police at that speed. But, I'm going a little bit faster than the speed limit. So I'm being courteous to those who want to go faster. But I don't find a need to pass people quite as much. So I might slow down a little bit and stay in that middle lane. And I tend to have more patience now driving. It's weird. I mean, the hybrid just kind of gives me another focus in my driving to just kind of look at how am I optimizing my miles per gallon. And I kind of entertain myself driving because that's a fairly long commute. And I'm just not bothered by other people.
So a couple things on this. One, some of our listeners are probably going to be thinking, wow, Oregon, you guys really have slow speed laws. 72, that's not that fast at all. I know our max speed here is 65 on the freeways, but also there's kind of a life lesson there, slowing down and not worrying about other people, but worrying about how you're getting there on your trip. And I think this is going to tie in perfectly with aging well, aging with our podcast. So what do you think this means for aging well?
Absolutely. I think, it is a good model for slowing our pace down, focusing in on really optimizing our performance spiritually, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and socially. And instead of just kind of rushing through life, it kind of reminds us to settle down a little bit, settle ourselves, and focus on really performance rather than on just getting to the end destination. And when you're talking about aging well, and what is our end destination? It's the grave. And do we really want to rush to that? We want to be able to enjoy and optimize that time. And, I think aging well is about getting to that destination as effectively and as healthfully as possible. And very much to me ties in well with the hybrid living, hybrid driving, where you are going to, you're not rushing to get where you're going, but you're going at a reasonable clip, but you're doing it in a way that is going to optimize your performance.
So it's not so much the destination, more of the journey.
Yeah,
is essentially what it is. And honestly, it's no matter what phase you are in life, it's funny because we live in such a society where they're like, you got to go all out. You got to bust your butt and you just need to go as hard as you can. But that's not necessarily the case because that's where fatigue, exhaustion, both on a physical level and on a mental level, that's when all that takes place. So it kind of is a life lesson where it's okay to slow down, smell the roses a bit. It's okay to recuperate, regenerate.
Yeah, I think one thing that the EV coach tells me is if I'm braking too hard or if I'm accelerating too aggressively, it's really kind of a neat little feature. They have the blue bar is telling you when you're in electric mode. So you want to be in that blue bar only as much as possible. That's where you're just running off the battery. But you can regenerate that by braking, slowing down. And so just simply letting off the gas periodically on the highway gets that regenerative capacity and allows me to run as much longer. I've been on battery mode at 72 miles per hour. It's pretty impressive.
Wow.
But it's this occasional braking. And if I accelerate too much, and there's times when you almost have to, but you can kind of gauge the amount of power you're using. That bar shifts from blue to gray and it goes further along. So the longer that hybrid bar is, the more you're using gas and the more you're really wasting energy trying to move, because you can go at 72 or even a little bit faster. I've been up to 80. Again, don't tell the state police when I've been passing people and doing it much more efficiently because I'm not just ramming on the gas to get by. But it also tells me when I'm braking too hard. It has a little white bar that extends. You normally when you brake, the green bar lights up and it's telling you that you're recapturing that energy from your forward movement. So you kind of use your momentum to go forward, and then you let momentum keep you going, and you're recharging yourself as your momentum kind of carries you forward. But if you brake too hard, it gets a little white bar, and it actually tells you how much of the energy you're actually recapturing. And so that gives you another little target to just kind of ease into your stops and things like that, and trying to regenerate. And that's, we talk about restorative time and talk about, recovery time and exercise and all that. You want appropriate recovery. You can't just slam on the brakes, stop what you're doing and think that you've recovered and then gun it again. We keep going at acceleration and hard stopping in life. We're wearing ourselves out. That's when we're more likely to get sick. We're more likely to have health issues that are going to cause us to, not age well.
Right. So it's kind of like the best approach in this world is kind of have a, dare I say, a hybrid living.
Yeah.
Right. A hybrid style, kind of like your vehicle, but more comparing it to life. So yeah, that's cool. Let's dive a little bit more into that. I do think that in today's world, there's such a huge competition. Like everyone wants to be ahead. Everyone wants to get to that next level. There's a lot of individuals in their early 20s where they're like, man, I feel like everyone else is so much more advanced than me. Not really. Like maybe they put their foot on the gas a little bit faster, or maybe they started slowly accelerating at a younger age, or maybe they just you're taking the scenic route and they took the direct path. Yeah. Right. But in the end, you don't want to go pedal to the metal. Right. There's a time and a place, just like if you're driving down a road, and you're metaphorically speaking, driving down the road of life, there's a time and a place where, there is an emergency situation where you have to get to the next destination a lot faster. But, there's a good majority of the time where maybe it's okay to be a Sunday driver. Maybe it's okay to just kind of drive and see everything that this world has to offer.
Yeah, I say. And then another analogy is, I think, probably the one time in this last few weeks that I really had to just kind of more aggressively accelerate was I'm driving to work, and there's a guy, it's a 2-lane road, so I have to follow him, and he's going well below the speed limit. It's like 10 miles below the speed limit. It's just not willing to speed up. And, you can't just sit back there and go slower and slower. So I had to kind of pass him, and it's, on these roads where there's traffic coming the other way. So I just had to kind of gun it and get around. And, that kind of stuff reminds me of, how do we respond to the people that are kind of getting in the way of us getting to our goals? We have to sometimes blow past those people that are interfering with us getting to where we have to go. But we have to immediately kind of settle back into that pace that's going to keep us healthy, keep us strong, keep us moving forward in the most appropriate way. I discussed my epigenetics test with True Diagnostic co-founder Hannah Wendt in episode 162. Epigenetic testing measures baseline and changes in your pace of aging, giving you the power to steer your anti-aging or health and wellness journey in the right direction. I learned that I am aging well. Click on the affiliate link in the episode description, use the promo code AGEWELL, and receive a 12% discount on your epigenetics test and monitor your pace of aging.
Kind of like a good metaphor would be, maybe you had a good friend who was always going down the same path as you, and then it turns out that their gas mileage isn't as great as yours, and it kind of hinders you a little bit, right? Is that kind of what I'm getting at?
I don't know if it's their mileage. They might be driving in a Prius or something like that. They're just not driving fast enough. They're not getting to where we have to go as
not going to take the same exit as you,
right,
I guess.
Yeah. So we could go into all kinds of different driving analogies with all of this, with hybrid living. But I think there are times when we have to kind of press on the gas a little bit more, but again, with the hybrid living, what I like about it is that as I got past him and I let off the gas and my car is naturally kind of slowing back to the speed that I want to be at, I'm recapturing that energy. So it wasn't entirely wasted energy unless I just kept, I kept the throttle down and just kept barreling down the highway. I allowed myself to recover from that a bit more. And I think I tie that into kind of what Jim Harshaw Jr., one of our guests, and I think it was episode 22, he talks a lot about the productive pause. And he defines the productive pause as, let me get it right here, a short period of focused reflection around specific questions that lead to clarity of action and peace of mind. And, I think of that productive pause a lot, when I'm trying to just kind of manage my life, trying to age well, doing daily journaling, taking some time out during the day just to catch a few breaths, not just work from 9 to 5 nonstop, take some time, but also, taking the time to kind of reflect on what you're doing and everything else. And, so there's going to be times when we are kind of blowing through our mental energies, our physical energies, our spiritual energies and all that. And we just have to kind of let off the gas a little bit and allow ourselves to recover a little bit more effectively from that. And how we recover is what's important.
So in that recovery time, it's best to always reflect, essentially, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think, use that time. I mean, it doesn't have to be reflection because not all recovery is of kind of an emotional or spiritual, intellectual type of level. I mean, just simply physical. You work out hard, you got to recover from it. You got to kind of let off the brakes. If we're training hard physically and we keep doing other stuff, we have so much else going on in our lives, all these other stressors, we're never recovering from that exercise. And in fact, we're probably doing more harm to ourselves by exercising because we're not allowing our body the adequate time, nutrients, sleep, and everything else that we need in order to recover from it.
Well, let's go into that topic of exercise. So a lot of people, when they first start, or they have the idea of, I'm going to hit these fitness goals. I'm motivated. I want to get into it. I want to get back into the swing of things, or I'm sick of being overweight. I'm sick of being unhealthy. I need to make a lifestyle change. And that lifestyle change is so dramatic because they are going all out. They are pedal to the metal that they get burnt out really fast. And they're like, oh, I can't believe I did that. But if they were to gradually put their foot on the pedal, right, and they were to gradually do that, they're not hitting that level of fatigue as often. Now, let's say they do hit a level of fatigue. It's okay to say, well, what am I doing? I'm getting back into shape. I'm living a healthier lifestyle. These are my goals. Am I hitting my goals? Well, not yet. I just started. And it's okay to see that. I feel like in today's society, we want to get from point A to point B as fast as we possibly can. And fortunately, with a lot of technology, yeah, we can do a lot of stuff, but not when it comes to the longevity of our lives, not when it comes to healthy lifestyle, whether it's mental health, physical health, emotional health. It is a journey. Right. And it's okay to stop and reflect and say, I'm taking the first step. I'm in that first mile of going there. I'm not on mile 100, and that's okay. Because a lot of people, they get burnt out and they get discouraged when they don't see their results instantly. You did mention another thing, which is a cool feature on your car. And it kind of got me thinking there is actually, not to do another plug, but there's a workout chain called Orange Theory, and they actually have heart monitors on all their people. And it's kind of a cool, fun, like a competitive thing where you're up on the screen, it has your name and it shows your beats per minute. And if you're in the green or yellow zone, you're not going hard enough. If you're in that orange zone, well, you're absolutely perfect. If you're in the red zone, you're burning like you're going way, way too hard. You're not in that perfect sweet threshold. And it kind of ties in a little bit with that, I think. Wouldn't you agree? Kind of like there's a perfect sweet spot on any aspect that you're doing, whether it's working out, whether it's getting that new promotion at work, whether it's picking up a new hobby, whatever it is, there is a perfect sweet spot. You know, if you miss an opportunity because you're doing it in your time frame or it's too slow, or you burn yourself out because you went too hard and you missed out on everything. There's a perfect sweet spot, I would say.
Yeah, I think that sweet spot has to be kind of situational as well. Mm-hmm. One of the critiques that I would have of Orange Theory is that they're always putting everybody into that same mold and, pushing that same target heart rate. This is how I understand it. Not done Orange Theory, but, kind of, knowing of what the programs are and how they run. There's some danger sometimes in pushing certain people too hard. And that even though that too hard might not be in the red zone or whatever the highest zone is that you're not supposed to be in, sometimes there are times when you need to be kind of in maybe a lower zone. And so it's knowing that appropriate area that you need to be in and really maintaining that, and then making sure that you are providing yourself with the energies necessary to be able to maintain that as efficiently and as effectively as possible. And so I could see kind of that little tie-in with the hybrid. Like when I drive, I'm not going to be in electric mode much on the highway.
Right.
I can occasionally kind of catch myself in the electric mode at 72 miles an hour on I-5 going south. But, most times I'm going to be kind of in hybrid mode where I'm relying a little bit more on the internal combustion engine as opposed to the electric motor. But generally I can do that very effectively and very efficiently. But there are other roads where I absolutely should be on electric as much as possible. I get down to Monmouth near campus. I'm pretty much in electric mode for about the last 5 miles of my drive, with the occasional having to kind of just recharge the battery a little bit on some of the downhills, or, using the braking a bit, or, getting it up in a hybrid, using the combustion engine a little bit, driving a little bit so that I can back off and recapture that energy a little bit. And so there are appropriate times when we maybe need to be pressing it a little bit harder. And then there are other times when we need to, be going a little bit more efficiently. But the key is, how do we manage all of that? And when I think of the times when I have to push a little bit harder, those are the times where I'm going to need a little bit more to recover afterwards. And, from an exercise standpoint, we talk about deloading, taking time. Maybe you push yourself really hard, you start kind of ramping up, you ease into that exercise, but you're going to progressively overload, and you're increasing the intensity of the work that you're doing. And eventually you kind of get up to a level where that's kind of your threshold for your body to be able to recover. And then you need to back off. Mm. And sometimes that might be a full on deload. Sometimes it's maybe just altering your workouts, high intensity, moderate intensity. But that's kind of what we're doing in this hybrid living, is we're managing the intensity to which we are living spiritually, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and socially, such that we are able to have better longevity and better productivity in that whole process.
So it's a kind of like a well-balanced diet for the soul, I guess.
Yeah.
You would say, kind of like that.
Yeah. What's that? The book series,
Chicken Noodle Soup for
the Soul. Yeah. You could take this approach into your diet as well. It's like, occasions, you get into the holidays, you're going to want to eat a little bit more. as you interact with people, or times when we have more social activity. Well, okay, so you eat a little too much in one meal, you got to account for that. So you kind of back off a little bit. You go into the green mode and, eat a little bit less for the next couple of meals to balance out those calories. And you can have things that are a little less healthy, but you're not going all out the whole way. You're not eating junk food all the time. You're
Well,
not
I think
drinking alcohol.
I think it's okay to reward yourself. If you look at, a lot of the physique competition, the bodybuilders, the superior athletes, I mean, they tell you, if you want to get your body in absolute peak condition, or if you want to get your body to hit these goals, you got to eat like a dog. Meaning you got to have the same meal every single day. And to me, that sounds insane. No way. I love food. There's so many good food out there in the world. I want to try everything. Do I also think that there is a healthy approach to trying things? Yes, but I don't want to eat the same plain chicken and broccoli meal. I want to add spices to it. You know what I mean? I also, every now and then, you mentioned the holidays, or maybe it's a birthday, or maybe it's summertime and you're going to a friend's house for an awesome barbecue. I don't want to just, sorry guys, got my Tupperware of chicken and broccoli. No, it's okay to take your foot off the gas.
Yeah.
On that one.
I would encourage any listeners to kind of go back to some of the episodes. I think there's been 2 episodes now that I've had my friend Sandy Griffin from Sandy Griffin Fitness on to talk about different topics. She's kind of now at the point of retiring from bodybuilding due to just some, just injuries and shoulder stuff that she's got going on. But, she's got a really great story about kind of turning her life around health-wise and becoming a bodybuilder. But, she's a self-proclaimed foodie. She loves food.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got so many great little recipes and things like that. She's really good about teaching her clientele how to eat healthy and be able to still enjoy the food. I'm a little bit more that person. I could live on chicken and broccoli all the time. I'm a very habitual eater.
That's my best friend. He can eat the same meal every day. Chicken and rice. He loves it. And
but when I splurge, I want to splurge well. I'm not going to eat crap. I'm not. There will be a time this fall coming up where my son's wrestling team will be selling Krispy Kreme donuts, and I really don't like those donuts. I think they're just greasy, sugary mess. But I'll eat a couple, just take 2 for the team, kind of deal. And that's a little plug that maybe anybody wants some donuts in the fall around football season. We'll be selling them for fundraisers. I don't want to eat those because when I finish them, it's like I haven't had that satisfaction. But, when it comes to things like ice cream, we have Salt and Straw around here. And we're doing a lot of shameless plugs. We ought to be getting paid for some of this stuff.
I know.
But Salt and Straw has really, really good ice cream. And I'm willing to splurge once in a while for that because it's something that satisfies the soul, and it's like you don't eat it every day. So on occasion, it's kind of good to have.
You don't eat it every day because there's a line that wraps around the block every time. Every time I drive by it.
That is true. So, it's good when it's like that.
Yeah.
But it's not like going out for pizza or something. I want good pizza, and about the only time I really crave pizza is when I go home to Pittsburgh, because that's where I think some of the best pizza is. Now, some of my New Yorker friends will contest with me, but I'd still argue that some of the pizza places in Pittsburgh are the best. But and part of it is just a nostalgia for me as well. So I'll go back there. I want to eat the pizza, and I enjoy it. Around here, I haven't really captured any that I really just I could really go for so and so's pizza. And so we don't eat it. And then you got some of the chain ones, and I'm not going to mention any names there because there's enough of the chain pizza places that their pizza is just like, really, once you've had good pizza, this is not really good. Why would you bother with that when you're trying to eat healthy? But sometimes I think we just get used to eating the crap that we don't even care about how it tastes. We just eat it. And that's not living well. That's not aging well. You want to be able to savor the moments in in those years as you're aging well.
Well, every experience in life it's a lesson. It's a memory. It's a magical moment. So why would you not want to be in that magical moment? Why would you not want to learn that lesson? Why would you not want to live that experience? You know what I mean?
Carpe momento.
Carpe momento. Speaking of carpe momento, I thought you had an awesome blog, your carpe momento stuff, and you had an amazing quote in there, which I think it kind of ties in. And the quote was actually from Lou Holtz, and the quote was, "It's not the load that breaks you down. It's the way that you carry it." And I think that this kind of ties in with this hybrid living, right? You know, we've talked about, oh man, you don't want to go so fast into something and burn yourself out, but you also don't want to be carrying too much on your plate at one time. It's okay to slowly ease into stuff. Or if you can't, you can carry the exact same weight, but if you hold it out in front of you, that's a little heavier versus if you, I don't know, put it on like a backpack and wear it the whole time. Like that's a different way of carrying that weight, or it's a different way of carrying that level of stress. You don't have to put all that stress on you in one area. You can slowly add that stress on at one time, and your body, just like working out, slowly putting weights on, you're gonna hit that goal. You're gonna be able to carry that weight a little bit easier than someone that's just like, yep, load this bar up.
Yeah. I mean, I think with that particular that blog, we talked a little bit about, some of the principles I teach in exercise science, which is the overload principle and overtraining and all that kind of stuff. And as you recall, I generally will teach that I don't think overtraining is as big of a problem in exercise as people tend to think it is. People, I'm overtraining. You're not overtraining. You're not just training properly. In fact, in most cases, we're undertraining. Now, in life, we often get a lot of crap just dumped on us. And I know a lot of people who have had to carry some pretty heavy weights in their lives. I mean, whether it's childhood cancer. We had my friend recently, Phil Wieski, talk about his daughter's plight with mitochondrial disease and how that evolved into him becoming a key figure in the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation. And I think those are really great examples of how we deal with carrying the load that we have. A lot of people, they lose a child and they just kind of fall apart. They blame God, they blame everybody, they just get miserable and they just never recover from it. And then you have other people, and my friends who have lost children for cancer, they have started foundations. Phil has got his work with the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation. They're carrying that weight well. I mean, it's not a weight that you want anybody to have to carry, but they're carrying it well. And so, yeah, it's heavy, but it's not as heavy as it could be if they carried it less appropriately. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, you got to be, I don't want to say smart, but using an exercise metaphor, you got to be smart when you're coming in to lift something heavy. You got to be not only physically strong and having good technique, but since that's just a metaphor, when you're dealing with something heavy emotionally, you have to kind of have a good emotional technique, and you have to have emotional strength to help lift that. And you're not going to get that emotional strength or that emotional technique without life experiences, right?
Yeah. And I think also, again, we're both exercise people, so we keep going back to these exercise examples and things like that. But I find them always to be pretty good analogies for living well. And, one I think of, you talked in terms of emotional technique, how do we do that? And again, the productive pause piece is very important for that. How much rest are we taking between those sets in exercise? Nobody saw that. I just did little air quotes. We need to have this on YouTube, I guess. But but how much rest you're taking between those loads, or do you have a spotter? Is somebody there to kind of catch you if the load gets a little bit too much, or wearing a weight belt to help give you that added support? A lot of carrying that heavier load is having the right support around you to give you better protection, to give you those guards so that, if the weight is too heavy, you're not going to crumble underneath it. I was talking with my son yesterday. He squatted about 405 in PE class yesterday. And he says, there's not a lot of guys in the class that are kind of doing the type of program that he's doing. And so oftentimes he's kind of lifting on his own. He's supposed to always have a spotter, but the teacher doesn't really pay enough attention. So he says, but I'm always safe because, if it's really heavy, I wear a belt. I always have the safety bars in proper position so that if I get stuck at the bottom, I could drop out and I'm not going to get hurt. So he's taken those necessary precautions to be able to carry that heavier load. And, see other kids that'll put that kind of load on their back. And I've seen countless videos on social media posted by parents of, oh, look at Junior's PR. He's doing 405 on the squat. And it's like a really crappy squat, not going through full range of motion, and he doesn't have adequate spotting. And, there's just so many different things that I can see wrong with that picture that just make me cringe. But, we can carry that heavier load if we just take the necessary precautions and avenues of recovery in order to be able to protect ourselves and to not crumble under the load of that. And I think sometimes we're somewhat intended to carry a bit of that heavier load in life. That's kind of part of our purpose. I mean, it's sad to say for, many people that what they have to go through in order to accomplish these great things that they might do. You have to suffer sometimes for a greater purpose.
I don't know if this is going to tie in, but you talked about a support system, and I heard this from a couple of my friends a few years ago, actually, right before they got married, and they were going through a marriage seminar through their church that they were going through, and their church counselor or their church pastor told them, in a relationship, as far as husband and wife goes, it's not 50-50. It's actually 60-60 or 65-65. And to me, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That's 135%. Like, what are you talking? Or that's 130%. And how they explained it to me is, no, each person brings 65% into that relationship, because there are going to be certain days where someone's not feeling their 100%, right? Someone's not feeling that way. So when that person isn't at their 100% and they're not bringing that 65, they're bringing it down to maybe 35 or 40. Well, they're still over 100% in the overall relationship, in that overall support. So it's kind of like where one person might slack, another individual is still able to carry that weight because you're prepping in it. You're still giving 100%, but in the overall relationship, your 100 is only matching 65. That way, if you ever fall off or you become sick, or you're just, man, I'm just not into it today, I'm just having a really down day. Well, it's okay, because your support system is carrying it balances each other out. And it took me a few years to kind of like grasp that concept, but it's actually kind of cool. And it's kind of, ever since hearing that, it's really kind of changed my mindset, my outlook of not just with me and my current relationship, but my relationships with family or friends or even coworkers. Like, you gotta give.
You said your current relationship.
Yes, my fiance.
My fiance. This is your final relationship.
This is my final relationship. Yes. I love it.
But yeah, I mean, I like that. And we tend to think, oh, you got to give 100%. Well, you cannot give 100% all the time.
No.
And if both people are giving 100%, what are you giving 100% to, first off, and just something's going to break down eventually because you get tired of giving all the time. And, you have to have a little bit of that give and take. And again, it kind of takes me back to this whole EV coach, in terms of, you're not always going to be in electric mode. You can't possibly always be in electric mode. And sometimes you have to let off the brake a little bit and, recharge. Sometimes you have to give a little bit more gas to keep the relationship going. And, so it is a bit more of that give and take, so that you're getting a bit more of the synergies of, your relationship.
Yeah.
One of you is the electric motor, one of you is the ICE. And, together you keep driving that vehicle forward. Am I milking this?
Yeah, I know. I mean, we can keep going. Sometimes you got to go off-roading. Yeah. Sometimes you got to switch it into 4-wheel drive and give a little adventure. Yeah. You know what? I like him. I like the Ford metaphors, but I also, at this point, I think Ford needs to give us a little money back for the plug. Okay, so let's summarize today. Okay. Essentially, start us off with the summary. Well, overall, out of everything that we talked about, what would be the life lesson that we just kind of went over?
I think the real life lesson here, and I think maybe that life lesson ties a little bit less with the EV, but is much more with the Lou Holtz quote, which is, just, it's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. So how are you carrying the loads in your life so that you are, driving in a more hybrid lifestyle? You're maintaining, you're getting the most of your energies, the most of your spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, and social capabilities to get down that road and to, age well.
Beautifully said. Yep. Aging well.
What are your summary thoughts on all this?
I do. I think a lot of us in today's world, I think that we have ideas of where we want to be, but we don't necessarily know how we're going to get there. And so we're like, well, I saw this one person, they were doing the one thing that I want. So I'm going to try and mimic them, and I'm going to go as hard as I possibly can because that's the way that I was taught. And that's not the case. It's, if you're going to get burnt out or you're going to get discouraged, and that's part of the journey. It's okay to back off. It's okay to, not go pedal to the metal, not go 0 to 60, but kind of gradually hit that acceleration button. You're going to hit, you don't want to burn rubber and peel out. You want to get enough traction that when you hit that road, on that road of life, you're taking the best route as possible. There's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be levels of construction, but you're in that moment of construction or in that moment of downtime, you're reflecting. All right, I still have a goal. I still have a destination. How can I get there? Is there another way to get around this? Or is this just something that I just have to kind of push through in order to get through to that next destination, right? Yeah. It's the road of life. We're all traveling down it. So you can either travel and go all out and break down, add that extra wear and tear to your car, aka your body, your mind, your spirit, or you can ease into it because in the end, it's not the destination. It is the journey.
Sounds good.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening today, folks. And always remember, age well.
Age well. Thank you for listening. I hope you benefited from today's podcast. And until next time, keep aging well.